Great to be here. I am Adhiti Gupta. I'm a senior advisor at FinDev Canada as part of our impact strategies and thought leadership team here.
And hello, Helen. My name is Lorena Lujan. I'm a senior gender advisor at the FinDev Canada.
FinDev Canada is Canada's bilateral development finance institution that was established in 2018 to support development through the private sector in emerging markets and developing economies. So we provide financing, investment, blended finance solutions, technical assistance, and knowledge to support private enterprises and mobilize private capital in Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, and Caribbean, and recently the Indo-Pacific. We have three sectors in which we invest: sustainable infrastructure, agribusiness and forestry, and then financial industry, which is funds and financial institutions. That's a great question. And gender equality has always been a big part of our strategy from the outset. So just to set the overall context, FinDev Canada has three strategic impact goals: climate and nature action, gender equality, and market development. All three are equally valued, and gender equality is, of course, one of those three. From our very launch, we started our impact journey as a gender lens investing champion. We've had a gender equality strategy since 2019 that details our gender lens approach. And we currently focus our strategy on 4 elements of women's economic empowerment: women's entrepreneurship, women's access to leadership positions, women's access to quality employment, as well as women's access to and control over basic services and economic empowerment. So we apply a gender lens to 100% of our investments across the entire investment lifecycle. But it's not only about applying a gender lens to our investment process. We also support our clients on their gender lens investment journey, wherever they're at. So that might be some who are starting off in the gender lens investing journey, or others that may be somewhere along the way. So we can help our clients be more gender inclusive in their operations, or look at opportunities for gender action at their own portfolio. And I think it's important to mention here that we also played a foundational role in the 2X Challenge, which was an initiative launched right here in Canada at the G7 Summit in 2018 to inspire development finance institutions and other investors to invest in women. So that's now led to the establishment of 2X Global, which is a steward of the 2X Challenge, as well as the underlying analytical framework, the 2X criteria, which we utilize a lot in our investment process to analyze our investments from a gender perspective.
And so founded as a gender lens investor, we do apply a gender lens across every stage of the investment lifecycle, from the way we originate our pipeline to how we make decisions about investments, and also throughout the asset management of investments. So to start with the business development, we actually have a corporate bonus incentive, which is linked to the gender performance of our portfolio. And so this really motivates our investments team to actively develop a pipeline that is gender smart, and that also responds to our mandate as Canada's CFI. We also have a dedicated impact team who screens each potential investment for alignment with our 3 development impact goals, one of them being gender equality. And as such, gender considerations are at the forefront during screening and due diligence. As a starting point, the impact officer will collect gender disaggregated data to understand women's representation as business owners, leaders, employees, and customers. And this quantitative analysis is complemented by a qualitative assessment on the gender inclusion practices of the investee and any gender commitments it may already have or may be willing to make. In addition, our impact tools, infrastructure, and investment memos are designed to systematically embed gender considerations. And at the same time, we also assess each transaction using the 2X criteria, which is an internationally recognized screening standard for gender finance. So this ensures all of our investment decisions consider gender equality, including gender differentiated environmental and social risk management, to ensure that there are safe environments for women as a prerequisite to their economic empowerment. Our Chief Impact Officer holds a seat in the investment committee to ensure that gender equality remains an organizational priority for investment decisions. And before closing an investment, we embed gender KPIs and gender commitments into legal documentation, including time-bound targets as applicable. So once the investment is closed, throughout the asset management stage, we continue to monitor gender performance on an annual basis until it exits our portfolio. And at any point during screening and asset management, we can provide gender smart offerings to our investees, such as targeted technical assistance and trainings to support them in their gender journey. We demonstrate our gender equality commitment at the portfolio, but we also have an important commitment towards gender equality internally. So to start with, we have an incentive program which ties bonuses to building a gender responsive portfolio. In terms of women's representation, at the leadership level, we have a gender balanced board of directors and senior management team, which is led by our CEO, Lori Kerr. And 44% of our board of directors and 57% of our senior management team and investment committee are women, and the majority of our employees are women. As we continue to grow, diversity and inclusion are a top priority in recruiting and retaining talent. And we already apply gender inclusive practices in recruitment processes. For example, by using inclusive language in job posts and ensuring interview panels are gender balanced. We also have an inclusion, diversity, and equity committee, which is employee-led and promotes an inclusive environment by organizing information sessions, having honest conversations, and also celebrations to reflect the voice and representation of our employees, and also to continuously identify opportunities for improvement. And finally, we are recipients of the internationally recognized Women in Governance Parity certification, which celebrates organizations committed to advancing gender parity and inclusive workplaces. One thing that I've seen is that having that gender lens investing strategy from the beginning has really shaped up the way our mandate, the way our teams are organized, the way our teams think, not only the impact team, but also every team within the organization. And also what it has allowed us to do is to systematically embed those questions that we want to ask and better understand from investee. And that part alone, just having the questions and having those sort of conversations with investees is very meaningful. It has really helped us sort of change mindsets and the way investees themselves approach gender equality. And simply, putting that up front when we have those conversations during screening and also asset management, I think has had a transformational effect also in the way thereafter the investees operate and value gender equality.
I think that sums it up quite well. I would just add that it's been really effective in not having gender equality as a silo or a separate thing that needs to be done, but really be embedded in everything we do. And our portfolio now speaks for that. So as of the end of 2023, over 60% of our investments were 2X aligned, which means they were aligned to the 2X criteria we spoke about. And if you look at the cross-cutting impact and we look at our climate investments, over 80% of our climate investments were also 2X aligned. So that I think that has been really effective. And having said that, we are now in the process of updating our gender lens strategy, given that it's been 5 years since the organization has set up. So we'll have more learnings to share over the next year. That's a great question. I'll start with first how we approach it at FinDev Canada and then how others in the field might approach it. So we look at our 3 impact goals to be very highly interconnected and synergistic, with each having the potential to have a direct influence on the other. So let's start with market development. If you take a step back and look at research in the field, we've seen that gender equality and women's full and effective participation in the workforce has been shown to be critical to economic growth, promoting diversified economies, reducing income inequality, strengthening financial sector stability. So there is research to show this.
So we have a couple of examples to highlight that. One of them is the Banco Nacional de Costa Rica, BNCR, which issued a social bond in which 40% of the use of proceeds are to be directed to women-owned and led micro enterprises and SMEs. This is a showcase of how we are integrating financial inclusion and gender equality. Another example is the nexus of climate change and gender equality. And for that, we have our Energy Entrepreneurs Growth Fund, EGF, which is an innovative investment fund which provides financing and technical assistance to early growth stage companies that increase access to clean energy for off-grid households and businesses in sub-Saharan Africa. The fund has committed to having at least half of its portfolio to be aligned with the 2X challenge criteria. So this way, they will be intentionally addressing the energy needs of African women consumers and entrepreneurs through the relevant products or services that they provide, such as solar home system appliances, or also by promoting women as owners, leaders, or employees of companies. So those were the examples that we had to highlight the interconnectedness that exists between gender equality and market development, financial inclusion, and climate and nature action.
And I can continue talking about how other investors can approach this. So what you've heard from us is a really comprehensive approach to looking at gender equality as an impact goal and a comprehensive approach to gender lens investing. But for other investors who are looking to start off, you don't have to start with everything at a go. People start and investors start in different parts of their gender lens investing journeys, and you can take small steps. So for example, if you're an intermediary, a fund, or a financial institution, look at your own portfolio companies and see how they hold up for women's ownership and leadership statistics. Look at your pipeline. Does that match with your portfolio? You may have potential steps that you could take to diversify your pipeline, and that could be a small step. We talked a little bit about how asking questions at diligence can be really powerful. We need to understand our own power as investors when we are making any kind of investment into a company. And asking those questions we've seen can make clients and investees curious and get them started on their own gender lens investing journey. And we've had an example of this. For example, we use the women's empowerment principles as part of our diligence process. And once we started asking questions about this, one of the climate funds in our portfolio, A, got really interested, but B, they have now embedded this into their own investment process when they look at their portfolio. So this is a good way of not only becoming more conscious about gender lens investing, but also promoting this in the ecosystem. Another example I'll take of a small but very powerful step is gender disaggregated data. Collecting data at your own institutional level and also about your portfolio can be really powerful, and it can also help you uncover blind spots that you might have that you may not have realized until you take a step in the right direction. So I will reinforce that you don't need to do everything to become a gender lens investor. You can start small and continue your journey.